In relation to the previous section, do you think that teachers have the same rights as other citizens do? Yes, of course. It is true that teachers hold the same right as others. There are some issues that need to be highlighted regarding the legal rights of a teacher. In this discussion, we will have some cases regarding the above issues and try to relate it with Malaysian context. Here, I have had classified 6 categories about the legal rights of a teacher, which are: first, due process; second, certification; third, teachers' rights to non-discrimination; fourth, teaching contract; fifth, due process in tenure and dismissal; and sixth, academic freedom. The first one is due process. What is due process? Due process refers to the legal requirement in which the state must respect all legal rights of a person. Basically, laws are needed to clarify individual rights and responsibilities so that they will be protected from any mischief. The application should apply to everyone regardless their gender, age, race, colors, or even their profession. Hence, there is no exception for the teachers as well. As stated here, teachers do have the same rights as other citizens. However, teachers must operate within the legal boundaries of the U.S. constitutions, their respective state constitutions, and case law, as well as statutory law at both state and federal levels. In short, teachers also have right to protect themselves as long as it is still under the supervision of the state laws. So, what do you think about the rights of teachers in Malaysian context in relation to due process issue? Here, I found an article from Malaysia Kini which concluded that equal protection is provided for all of its citizens and people, including teachers. In addition to that, we acknowledge that schools do have limited power over teachers, but after all, teachers' rights to due process still cannot be violated. So, if there is a law proposes the rights of the teachers, no one have the right to deny or against it. Like all citizens, teachers should be protected from being treated arbitrarily by those in authority. For instance, a principal who disagrees with the teacher cannot suddenly fire the teacher, or a teacher cannot be dismissed for their poor performance without ample documentation. In short, teachers do have their rights which everyone should respect. The second issue is on teaching certification. In this case, when Peggy was in her 5th year of teaching, her principal gave her an unsatisfactory performance rating. As a result of that, her teaching certificate cannot be renewed. So, do you think that the principal's principle is correct even after Peggy showed proof of 5 years of successful teaching? In relation to the previous issue, the answer is no. The principal could not revoke the teaching certificate of Mr. Peggy due to his own judgment towards Mr. Peggy's teaching performance. This is because, according to the U.S. state's law, non-renewal of a certificate will happen due to unsuccessful performance or a failure to complete the school year and not performance that is judged to be unsatisfactory. However, Peggy's principal might have been correct if she taught in another state. This is because state laws and unsuccessful performance is defined differently in different states. In addition to that, no one has the right to deny a teaching certificate of a teacher who meets all of the state's requirements for initial certification. However, obtaining the certificate does not guarantee the right to retain it. For a certificate to be revoked, the reason must be job-related and demonstrably impair the teacher's ability to perform satisfactorily. In related to the statement above, there is a case of a California teacher whose certificate was revoked because someone admitted to having a homosexual relationship with the teacher. In regards to that, the court determined that the teacher's homosexual conduct has nothing to do to affect teacher's performance and ordered the certificate restored. But if it involves sexual involvement with students or public acts of offensiveness, the courts have the right to terminate the teachers. The third issue is on teachers' rights to non-discrimination. It can be seen in George's case, who pled guilty to possession of marijuana and cocaine in a criminal trial, was not restored in his teaching position after his criminal record was expunged. George claims that he is being discriminated against because of his past. So, do you think that he is right in this situation? So, before we give any judgment towards Mr. George's action, let us take a look at the laws and regulations provided for the teachers. It is stated here that the states may carry out certain limitations on initial certification as long as those limitations are not biased with regard to race, religion, ethnic origin, sex, or age. Also, it is said that nearly all the states require that applicants for a teaching certificate pass a test that covers basic skills, professional knowledge, or academic subject areas. Qualifications for initial certification may also legally include certain personal qualities. Therefore, in this case, it can be said that the court maintained that Mr. George had committed the act, even though the record has been removed, but the fact that it is related to moral immorality of the teacher's conduct still cannot be erased. Here, we can conclude that the decision for not restoring Mr. George's teaching position is a right decision. It is basically has nothing to do with discrimination issue. So, this is the article that was found on New Straits Times, which emphasizes on the issue of discrimination in Malaysia. Based on the statement, discrimination is totally not allowed to practice here in Malaysia as stated in Article 8 of the Federal Constitution under the basic concept of equality before the law and equal protection of the law. Therefore, the concept has been applied similarly among the teachers. The third issue is on teaching contracts. So, what is teaching contract? Teaching contract is an agreement between the teachers and a board of education. Basically, for a contract to be valid, it must contain these 5 basic elements. They are: first, offer and acceptance; second, competent parties; third, consideration; fourth, legal subject matter; and fifth, proper form. Now, I will discuss briefly on each element of the teaching contract to be valid. First, offer and acceptance. It means that the school board has made a formal offer and the employee has accepted the contract terms. Second, competent parties. It means that the school board is not exceeding the authority granted to it by the state, and the teacher meets the criteria for employment. Third, consideration. It means that salary is promised to the teacher. Fourth, legal subject matter. It means that the contract terms are not illegal and not against public policy. Fifth, proper form. It means that the contract abides to state contract laws. So, what are basically teachers should do when they sign the teaching contract? First and foremost, they have to read the teaching contract carefully. Then, They should be certain that it is signed by the appropriate members of the Board of Education or Board of Trustees. If they do not understand any sections in the teaching contract, they should not hesitate to ask. If there are any additional non-teaching duties, they should be spelled out in writing rather than oral agreement. Last but not least, it is better for teachers to read any available teacher handbook or school policy handbook to get better understanding. So, why is it important to read and ask for clarification in teaching contract? There is a case about Victor who became quite upset when he learned that he had been assigned by his principal to sponsor the poetry club. Victor refused to sponsor the club, saying that the contract he had signed referred only to his teaching duties during regular school hours. Based on the case, could Victor be obliged to sponsor the club? Based on Victor's case, it can conclude that certain assignments may be required of teachers in addition to their regular teaching load, as long as there is a reasonable relationship between the teacher's classroom duties and additional assignments. However, if school authorities have assigned teachers to additional duties not reasonably related to their teaching, the courts have tended to rule in favor of teachers who filed the case. The fourth one is teachers' right to due process in tenure and dismissal. Here, tenure means a policy that provides the individual teacher with job security by first preventing his or her dismissal on insufficient grounds, or second, providing him or her with due process in the event of dismissal. Tenure is granted to teachers by the local school district after a period of satisfactory teaching, usually 2 to 5 years. Well, in most cases, it can be said that tenure may not be transferred from one school district to another. Now, let us take a look at a case regarding due process in tenure and dismissal. A teacher was dismissed from his teaching position by the school board after it learned that the teacher was a homosexual. The teacher filed case in court, claiming that his firing was arbitrary and violated the provisions of tenure that he had been granted. The school board, on the other hand, maintained that his conduct was inappropriate for a teacher. So, what do you think about this issue? Was the school board justified in dismissing the teacher? So, in this case, the teacher was unfairly dismissed. It is said that the board seems violated the teacher's rights as a tenure employee by failing to show good and just cause for dismissal, and as the result, the teacher was awarded the balance due under his contract and an additional 1/2 year's salary. Nevertheless, in a similar case, a court supported the dismissal of a teacher due to parents' complaints and students' comments regarding the sexual orientation issue. As a result of it, the court ruled that the teacher could no longer effectively carry out his teaching duties. The practice of providing teachers with tenure is a very controversial issue. Some critics point out that the policies make it difficult to dismiss incompetent teachers. Generally, however, the courts have determined that tenure functions to protect teachers from special interest groups and political factions. Those tenure enable them to perform their professional duties without any interference, which consequently leads to the improvement of educational system, and students derive the benefits of quality education. Teachers should be aware that courts frequently hold that teachers are role models and the local community determines acceptable behavior both in school and out of school. Anyhow, teachers are given the right to file a grievance or complaints if they are treated badly. It is through an organization called collective bargaining laws which consists of negotiations between an employer and a group of employees that determine the conditions of employment. There will be free legal counsel for the teachers which happen to be mistreated by the authority. Basically, if we talk on the case of tenure and dismissal in Malaysian context, there occurs not so much differences as compared to the US laws and policies. In an article from the Star Online, it is said that once an employee is confirmed in his job, he enjoys security of tenure, which means that they cannot randomly have his employment terminated without good cause. Accordingly, in the non-government sector, the Industrial Relations Act 1967 ensures the same issue of rights and protections of an employee. The last issue is on teachers' right in academic freedom. I'll bring you a case where a teacher of at-risk students at an alternative high school used a classroom management or motivational technique called LearnBall. The school board ordered the teacher not to use the LearnBall approach. So, do you think that the teacher have the right to continue using this teaching method? Due to the issue, the teacher brought case against the board regarding the LearnBall approach in the classroom. The teacher cited the principle of academic freedom and claimed that teachers have a right to use teaching methods and materials to which schools officials might object. However, U.S. District Court support the school board policy against LearnBall, which makes the decision of the teacher to use LearnBall method is wrong according to the law. Although the courts have held that teachers have the right to academic freedom, it can be said that it is not absolute and must be balanced against the interests of the society. Education law expert Michael Lamort stressed on the importance of teachers to follow the rules of legitimate state and local curriculum directives. It means that teachers should follow the professional norms for that grade level and subject matter, discuss matters which not against public, acted professionally and in good faith if there is no policy on that particular action. So, as you can see in this article from Malaysia Today, you can find that there are academic freedoms happen in Malaysian context. The first one is about institutional freedom. It focuses on the freedom attained by the academic administration in making decisions regarding their rules and policies of the organizations. The second aspect is on individual freedom. It aims on the freedom to teach what an academic thinks is right, freedom of expression within the public domain on issues, and freedom to associate with others with integrity. However, in today's scenario, Malaysian universities are still part of the apparatus of government rather than being an independent source of ideas and policies. So now, it's time for us to recap what we have learned previously about the legal rights as teachers. In a group of 3, you may discuss and answer the questions given. The first question: list 6 issues which I have explained related to the legal rights as a teacher. Second, list 2 types of academic freedom which has been implemented in Malaysia. 3. What do you think important for a teacher to read and ask clarification in teaching contract? 4. List 5 basic elements for the teaching contract to be valid. Previously, we have learned about some of the issues related to the legal rights as a teacher. Now, we will take a look at another subtopic which question: do student teachers have the same rights as teachers do? Firstly, who is student teachers? Student teachers is a college, university or graduate student who is teaching under the supervision of a certified teacher in order to qualify for a degree in education. Student teachers hold the same responsibility as the certified teachers and clarify it prior to beginning student teaching. It stated that no state had a statutory provision regulating the dismissal of a student teacher, the assignment of a student teacher, or the denial of the right to student teach. Here are some of the legal advices as references for the student teachers. Firstly, student teachers need to be sure that they understand the requirements and prohibitions stated on the teacher's handbook when they read it. It is important to discuss its content with the cooperating teacher if needed. Second, it is a must for the student teachers to know comprehensively regarding the school safety rules and regulations so that they are able to think of something in case of emergency, for instance. Thirdly, any potential hazard associated with any activity need to be taken into consideration so that they can act accordingly to protect children from those dangers. Fourth, student teachers need to know what controls the area has placed on the curriculum that they will be teaching. It is a need for them to make sure that they use specific texts or methodologies that meet the requirements of the district policy. Fifth, student records are used to enhance and inform their teaching. Hence, make certain that strict confidentiality is respected. And sixth, do not forget to document any problems you have with students when you are a student teacher. This will be very useful for you once you are working in a paid position where you can relate your past experiences and manage to handle them at a later time. So, do you think in Malaysia they have an act of protection for teachers? So here in this article, it is claimed that teachers have been protected under a certain law provided called as Kanun Keseksaan, Akta 574, which aims at the protection of rights among the teachers. It is also stated that in Section 5 Akta Prosiding Kerajaan 1956, Akta 359 clearly shows that government will take charge for any responsibilities related to the employee issue from the government sector. However, it raises a concern among citizens in which government should provide the law of protection specifically for the teachers. So, in regards to this issue, Ketua Pengarah Pelajaran Tan Sri Dr. Khair Muhammad Yusof claimed that they will try to look into the suggestion in which to create a specifically policies aims to protect the educators.